Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report, brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Good morning. Welcome to the Handicappers Report for this Saturday morning, April 3rd. We are in April. We are featuring the penultimate weekend of Derby preps. Next weekend, the Arkansas Derby, and then we'll have the major preps in the books, and the field will kind of sort itself out. I'm going to take a look at Aqueduct Wood Memorial Day. Brian Nadeau shifts his attention to Keeneland. It's Bluegrass Day down there. Nice cards at both tracks out on the west coast, the Santa Anita Derby. But Brian, good morning.
Seth, good morning. Good to hear from you back in Fort Lauderdale at home base. And you said it, it's just an awesome weekend of racing between Aqueduct, Keeneland opening weekend, the Santa Anita Derby as well, at mandatory payout out there at Santa Anita. So, yeah, it's an exciting time to be a racing fan, isn't it?
Fill us in on, let us live vicariously a couple moments, what the weather has been like since you arrived back. Last weekend we talked to you, obviously I spent the winter at Fairgrounds, but now back at your Fort Lauderdale base. Just fill us in. And I just asked because it's April, but it snowed 2 days ago.
Yeah, I know. I talked to my parents the other day. I think they're watching too, so Mom and Dad, love you guys. You know what, Seth? I can't complain, but I will a little bit. It was like 70 degrees here. It was like 68 degrees here last night. The wind was blowing about 30 miles an hour, so it's unseasonably cool here. New Orleans got really, really nice at the end, but again, I have to temper it a little bit because my mom did say that you guys got a dusting of snow the other day, and yeah, that's not quite happening here. I think later in the week here, it's supposed to get up to about 86 degrees, which will be by far the warmest it will have been in quite some time. So I can't complain. And I'll tell you what, Seth, it was cool though. I was sitting on the couch yesterday, just kind of relaxing and running second and third all day at Keeneland, which wasn't too fun. But I looked up and I'm admittedly a little out of the loop at Aqueduct. And I looked up and they were on the green stuff. So I said, wow, turf racing in New York. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
so,
first day.
Hey, there's the light at the end of your tunnel, right?
Yeah, first day on the turf yesterday, and they managed to get a couple of turf races in. So one of the robins on your front lawn for springtime. I said it. Internationally, you got Cheltenham that kind of does it, and turf racing in New York, Keeneland opening up. All signs that spring is here, but that snow a couple days ago didn't help things. Let's go back to last week and just get some thoughts. Florida Derby, greatest honor third. I'll give him a little bit of a pass on the race, kind of trying to save ground and had to find a spot. By the time greatest honor found the spot, known agenda was gone. So I'll give him a little bit of a pass there. It didn't flatter him by any means, but if I was on his bandwagon, I wouldn't necessarily jump off. But known agenda, I thought looked good for Todd Pletcher over at Turfway. Light the King won for Wesley Ward. I liked Sainthood in that Jeff Ruby, and I got jammed up. The stewards looked, and they made the right decision. It wasn't the winner that bothered them. It was the horse that eventually ran fourth. But I thought Sainthood might have been the best horse in that race at 10-1. So I took a little bit of the worst of it there. But it's hard to get excited about the horses coming off the synthetic at Turfway anyway. The one last weekend that you would kind of focus on would be known agenda.
Yeah, I mean, Seth, you're a buyer guy, or at least you follow him closely. And I think what we learned in the Florida Derby is at some point you have to run fast or you're going to get exposed. And I think Greatest Honor got exposed, with his 89s that he was running in the Holy Bull and in the Fountain Youth. That's just not going to cut it. And Known Agenda stepped up, admitted I didn't like him. He stepped up and ran huge. Todd Pletcher winning the Florida Derby. No surprise there. And, I think Greatest Honor, to me, Seth, he ran his race, and it's just not good enough. He's a Florida horse. He has a running style that will be conducive to 1.25 miles at Churchill Downs. But now I'm sure you saw this, and listen, Shug McGahee's trained a few more racehorses than I have in my day. I just thought it was really weird that now all of a sudden he might have blinkers. That kind of seemed odd to me. The other thing, Seth, and it might be an elephant in the room, but Collaborate who's, freakishly fast and super good and was awesome breaking his maiden, went off Lasix and couldn't even make the lead in the Florida Derby, and he was sluggish. And it's a handicapping conundrum in this day and age when these horses are bouncing on and bouncing off Lasix because they're running in stakes races. It's just another factor you have to. It's an unknown, but it's a legitimate thing. These horses that have run well on Lasix and then they run in graded stakes races or they run in Kentucky Derby points races and they come off Lasix, and it's just an unknown. And I don't think there's any doubt that you saw it on the racetrack in the Florida Derby. Collaborate just was not as sharp early as he had been in his maiden win and even after he broke slowly in his debut. And it's just another kind of monkey wrench into the handicapping equation. He was very flat, couldn't make the lead, was strung out wide, and then just didn't run his race. So, it's tough. It makes it that much tougher. But Known Agenda really stepped up, Seth, off Lasix too, by the way, and obviously, and looked good. What that means in 4 weeks from today, I don't know. But Seth, these 3-year-olds like I do, they're not very fast right now, and they're okay, but they're not very good either. So I think anything goes in 4 weeks from today.
You'll talk about it later with the Bluegrass, but I think Essential Quality today has the chance to kind of take the lead of the division, establish himself more firmly in the lead in the division. But I think the interesting horse today, maybe in Collaborate fashion, and I'll have his trainer on later. We taped an interview yesterday with Brendan Walsh, but in the Wood Memorial, Prevalence is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and you'll talk about it, so I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. And Brendan's a great guy. I got to know him very well, or better than I did know him already here this winter because he's at Fairgrounds. I feel like, Seth, we see about 6 prevalences every year, and so we just don't know. Does he answer the bell? He's pretty darn slow on paper, too. It's not the best Wood Memorial we've ever seen. They're asking him to do a lot. Now, facing graded stakes foes, running 2 turns. He's being asked to do quite a bit coming off Lasix as well. Wouldn't shock me if he answers the bell. I don't know, and you'll talk about it later, so we won't get too far into it right now. But I certainly was not overly impressed with his allowance win at Gulfstream last time. I know, obviously, he could have did a little more if they asked him, but there was absolutely nothing in that race. So he needs to step up and answer the bell today, Seth. And if you're a fan, you're going to take a real underlaid price. The horse I'm really interested in, hear you talk about it later, is Risk Taking, because he's been kind of out of sight, out of mind for Chad Brown. And now he comes back, he gets the acid test, he's got to step up. We'll see how he does, because I thought he looked really good winning earlier this winter in New York.
Yeah, Brendan actually talks about that allowance victory last time and notes that, a lot of people didn't think, and myself included, it certainly wasn't as visually impressive as the debut effort. And he addresses that a little bit later on. He also has a great story. He won, in Dubai last week, and he has a good story I'll tease people to watch later on of where he watched the Dubai race and how that played out. So again,
I know he was at Fairgrounds because we saw him later that day. So I don't know where exactly he watched it, but we talked to him later that day at Fairgrounds. Maybe he said it himself. That was the first, believe it or not, the first graded stakes win of Extravagant Kid's career. That was mind-boggling to Joe Kay and I said that to Joe in the office. I said, "Oh my goodness, can you believe that?" Brendan's done an awesome job with that horse. He broke the $1 million mark in when he ran second in our race at Fairgrounds. The name escapes me, but maybe the Kenner. I'm not positive, but anyway, he went over $1 million in that race, and Brendan was really, really happy that Brendan's, as I'm sure you found out, or I'm sure Seth, Brendan's a very candid guy. So yeah. I'm sure that was a great interview that he had with him.
No, in my mind over the years, as I've interviewed people, you place, this guy's really good, and this guy maybe not so much, and he's one of those guys, you get him on, and he fills you in, and as you say, he's candid, he's fun to talk to, and I'll, again, invite people, he'll be on Racing Across America a little bit later on. We also talked yesterday to Anthony Stabile and went over some of the stakes on the wood card with him, so a nice edition of Racing Across America coming up a little bit later. All right, let's jump in. Again, during the Keeneland meet, you have Keeneland on the one sheet. Anything stand out opening day yesterday? Wesley Ward got off to a nice start, winning a couple of stakes races. I liked Chasing Artie in that the betting public went with Fauci, who ran an okay second, but Chasing Artie paid little over $10, and I thought that was a nice performance. So Wesley Ward with a couple of stakes races. The surprise was not that Wesley Ward won on opening day at Keeneland a couple of times, but the surprise was that it wasn't in the 4.5 furlong 2-year-old races.
Yeah, both of his horses lost, correct, Seth? They both lost. And Chasing Artie was entered today, and he's obviously scratched out now in an allowance race, and he chose to run yesterday, and you saw why at $10. The one sheet went 0 for 10. I think I posted it on Twitter. I had a 206 or 7 ROI in the fall meet at Keeneland, which I was over the moon at, so I got to dig out of a little hole. Had a bunch of seconds, a bunch of thirds, and a bunch of fourths, so we'll try to get back to battle today. Fire at Will losing, I thought was something, which was somewhat noteworthy, running third over the course that he won the Breeders' Cup over. But yeah, Wesley, and obviously, as you said, Seth, 2 Wesley Ward 2-year-olds that did not win, and honestly, kind of were a little flat, to be honest with you. The first one was second, I know that, but so that's always anytime that happens, pretty noteworthy. So keep an eye on that, throughout the meet. Sometimes, especially with Twitter and stuff like that, those horses tend to tout themselves a little bit, but they were, to me, just a little bit flat yesterday.
The horse that won the first race yesterday, one of those 4.5 furlong 2-year-old races, had touted himself. He had a best of 29 or 30 work, 46. You get a 2-year-old this time of year does that. And I have to admit, I didn't use the horse because it was a race where there were other horses that were kind of interesting to me as well. But you could have looked at that workout and jumped, and the horse ran to the work, looked really good in the opener.
Yeah, no doubt. And not only did he run to the work, Seth, he ran to the tote action too. I think he paid $7 or $8, and you say, well, so what? But when you're talking about a Wesley Ward firster in there, that's a lot of money, to take into the teeth of a horse like that.
Yeah.
Good for James Graham too, who rolled to our jockey's title at Fairgrounds, and he started the meet off with a win there, so that was pretty cool too.
All right, let's jump in on this Saturday Bluegrass card, opening Saturday at Keeneland. First race this afternoon, a maiden special, 3-year-olds going 1.1 1/8.
Seth, I talked about Collaborate, and these are one-sheet selections again, and I'll update them on Twitter and all that good stuff. Benny from the Bronx comes out of that race, and he didn't take any money whatsoever on debut. He's the have to justify for
Charlatan.
Charlatan, thank you. I'm sorry. And he didn't really take any money.
Given that, you look and you see 5-1 Chad Brown sibling to Charlatan, 5-1.
Yeah, and I think he was like 7 or 8-1 if I remember, Seth, early. And so obviously he didn't take any money. He had a little bit of a trip that day. And he ran on late to get second behind Collaborate, who we know ran off the screen. So now he's back. He's going 1.1 1/8. It's a short field. I would think it's kind of coming out party time, Seth. There's, a couple of these horses are okay, but Benny from the Bronx, to me, second start, going 2 turns now for Chad Brown in an advantageous outside attack post, I think is in a really good spot. So it's 5 over the 4-1. American Law, second Lasix or Danny Gargan. He's tactical. He went 2 turns last time. And then Ghazali for Todd, probably the inside speed. He's been 1.1 1/8. He was a good second going 1.1 1/8 last time on the stretch out. So I know there's only a field of 5 set. A pretty good maiden special weight with 3 horses that, could have a future. I'll call it 5 over the 4-1.
Yeah, and Collaborate certainly played into that 5-1 in the debut from Benny from the Bronx.
Too.
But still, Chad Brown, Peter Brandt, sibling to Charlatan, that 5-1 looked very generous that day. Going to be interesting to see what he goes off at this afternoon. Second race at Keeneland, starter allowance at the 50 level, about 7 furlongs is the trip.
Yeah, and as I alluded to, if you're just joining now or maybe you're not in the loop about yesterday, the 8 Chasing Artie will come out because he won the stakes yesterday. So my picks do not include him. 7-1 over the 4-5. AC Expressway from Norton Cassidy, if you look at his 2 sprints on a fast track, they're really, really good. A win and then a good third behind Blameworthy, who's a nice dirt sprinter for Chris Davis. We found out in the stakes yesterday he's not a turf sprinter, but he's a really nice dirt sprinter for Chris Davis. AC Expressway drawn outside. The perfect attack post can be pressing or just off the early speed. I like him here. Down inside, number 1, Bourbon Thunder. I know he broke his maiden for a tag last time for Ian Wilkes, that race was really, really fast on the figures. He ran a 5 on the thoroughgraphs, and that is, when you look at this field, it's a huge number in this field. Just for point of reference, AC Expressway was running 10s in those 2 sprints I mentioned. So Bourbon Thunder, very, very playable, trying winners. Big in the city at a price from just a little off the pace, looked good winning last time. Perfect cut as well, stepping up and facing maidens. But I think AC Expressway, especially now, Seth, with the scratch of Chasing Artie, which is going to dilute all these prices, I think AC Expressway is in a really good spot.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're handicapping and looking at the morning line is not going to be reflective of what things are now with Chasing Artie out of that second race. Third race at Keeneland, maiden special, 3-year-olds going 6.5.
Yeah, it's a tough race. I would say there's some firsters in here that could be okay, but check the tote board here. I'll talk about number 11, Primary Endpoint, in a second, but I have this 10-5 over the 11-8-2, so I use all the spots I'm allotted on the one sheet. KC Rocket for Al Stahl, who's really kind of tempered his program a little bit to win at first asking. Al used to be about 26, 28%, and now he's down to like 8 or 9%. But KC Rocket ran very, very well. Colonel Bowman's a Godolphin horse that Brad likes quite a bit. And KC Rocket, I thought, was very good third on debut. They paid a lot of money for a son of Cantharos. Now, on the dam side is Silver Bullet Day, back in this pedigree a little bit. So obviously there's some talent here. I like him to move forward. Shadow Matter. Dally Store, our friends with West Point. Dally had a monster fairgrounds meet, winning almost 30%. He won 4 stakes at the meet, 5 stakes at the meet, excuse me, and he was just firing. And Shadow Matter for our guys, West Point, they were second to Colonel Bowman. They took a lot of money that day. They ran really, really hard on the lead, and I was impressed. So he's a major player in here. Primary Endpoint I mentioned. Now, this is a half to California Chrome, and that's great. We all know how great California Chrome was. But the other 4 foals out of this dam were not much at all. So you start to kind of wonder if just maybe California Chrome was a little bit of an anomaly. But this is Brad. It's Larry Best's OXO equine. They paid a lot of money for this Pioneer of the Nile colt. So he could be a runner. Who knows? And then there's just others in here that, again, I think you should, the old tab the tote angle. The 6 Gun Lab, who I've got in 4th. It's not the 8. It's the 6 Gun Lab. Adds blinkers, first time gelding for Tommy Drury. Mr. Annoying down inside for Mike Maker. So there's a lot of different ways you can go in a good race, Seth.
I used Recidivist on top. I think at a price, Into Mischief, second-time starter. There's a little bit of win early or early talent on the bottom. The dam has produced some horses. So this is the kind of race that is going to be very intriguing. I have others in the mix as well, but I thought Recidivist at a price could be a little interesting in there.
Well, I think just the fact you have him on top just kind of emboldens what I'm saying. I don't have him in my top 5. And he is legitimately 8 or 10 to 1 for Rudy Brissett, and that's what kind of race this is. It's a deep, deep race. It's a tough race if you're playing this early pick 5, early pick 4.
Yeah,
sure.
I agree. 4th race at Keeneland, allowance non-winners to 1 other than a mile on the grass.
Yeah, and this is a lot like Fairgrounds does, Seth. They sneak in a middle pick 4 in here, so take note of that. 3-11 over the 9-6. The favorites in here are fine, but they're no real better than anyone else. And I look at a horse like Urban Fairy Tale. Yes, hasn't been out since October, but Ian Wilkes is a very strong 13% off this layoff. He gets his main guy, Florent Giroux, here. This horse ran very, very well. 3rd at Keeneland last time, when last seen. And you would think at Keeneland, Seth, Ian would have this horse ready to roll. So I put her on top. It's a real scramble. Enjoy it while we can. Definitely the horse to beat for Maker, but this post is no bargain going a mile. So I was a little against her at underlaid price. Empress Eleanor was really good winning at Fairgrounds. Now she's facing winners off that maiden win. Hasn't been out since December. She was a vet scratch in February, so that's the old tread lightly angle, but I think she's got a lot of talent. And then We the Clouds, I don't think she'll be 20 to 1, but she got to the turf last time, Seth. She was overlooked at 14 to 1, albeit at Tampa. She ran a very fast number from a bad post. The race fits on the figures, and she's going to be a price here. If you just take that race at face value, It is a very good, very fast second, and no one in here is really doing all that much better than that race. I mean, if she's 10 or 12 to 1, don't sleep on her either. She's a player in here. So I go 3-11, 9-6 and a toughie in the fourth.
Fifth race, optional claim or non-winners of one other than 7 furlongs the trip. And at the top of the page, I have written, this is a nice race.
Yeah, it's a nice race. It's a tough race, too. And again, all the slots are going to get used for me. 1A9, 782. And it's easy with the class drop on Santa Cruiser. I get it. I saw him all winter, and then Keith DeSormo sent him to the Southwest. Got a short field that day. He was probably throwing something at the wall. It didn't work. Maybe he's not a two-turn horse. Maybe he's not very good. Maybe he's clearly not a graded stakes horse right now. But you look at his prior form at Churchill, which was one-turn form as well. It was pretty darn good. And I actually thought the race in the Lecomte, I talked to Keith last time, or after that race, and he was like, I don't know what we were doing, dropping out the back. This horse was dueling on a 45-1 at Churchill, so he was not happy. He ran on late that day. Now the Lasix goes on. He's back to one turn. He's got a good post for this kind of spot, and the class drop is seismic, Seth. It's absolutely huge. And I don't know if you're going to get 10 on Santa Cruiser, but you look through this field, and like you said, tough race. There's so many different ways to go. Maybe that muddled form of late, he falls through the cracks a little bit. You get 7-1 or something like that. I'll take it, because this is a horse to me that has a lot of talent, and maybe today is the day he shows it. Number 9, Founder for Chad, hasn't been out since Churchill in November, returns with Lasix. So he's clearly in the mix. Warrant was okay winning at Fairgrounds. Wild for Wycliffe, a nice horse for Tom Amos. Cool House was a firster for Brad that day. So Warrant got up and he did it pretty, in good style. That helps. Democracy is kind of an unknown because he wasn't bet on debut for Todd in the slop, but he won. And then One Fast Cat is the real wild card for WW off the Poly win at Turfway. Now he goes to the rail. Now he tries winners. Now he tries dirt. They're throwing a lot at him at a very underlaid price. So I'm against him. But, boy, he certainly did it the right way too, Seth. As you mentioned, tough race, and it wouldn't shock me at all. I would almost guarantee it, Seth, that the winner of this race will show up on Derby Day in the Pat Day Mile.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I had written nice race, and part of the reason is I think this is a field with some talent and potential. All right, why don't we take a break, because the 6 will kick off some stakes action, so we'll take a break here and get into the Bluegrass Day undercard stakes when we come back. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Albany County, an incredible destination to live, work, and play, with easy connections to more than a dozen cities from our vibrant modern airport. It's a short trip downtown to a hive of culture and amusement, from world-class shows at the newly renovated Times Union Center to reliving the past at the New York State Museum. From outdoor recreation to shopping to nightlife, Albany County has something for everyone. We'll see you soon.
Want to take advantage of everything Capital OTB has to offer? Become a Capital Bets account holder today. It's quick and easy, and now for the month of April, it's our new member sign-up bonus. Simply make a minimum deposit of $200, bet $400, and receive a $200 cash bonus deposited directly into your new account. That's $200 free money from Capital OTB, so sign up today and win more with Capital OTB.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report on this Saturday morning. Keeneland got underway with their spring meet yesterday and a big card today, obviously with the Bluegrass highlighting things. But in this upcoming race number 6, Brian Nadeau taking a look at the Keeneland card, and race number 6 kicks off the stakes action, the Appalachian Grade 2 event, couple $100,000 up for grabs for the 3-year-old fillies on the grass at a mile.
Yeah, this is a good race, Seth. I've got it 2 over the 1-4. Probably the old master of the obvious. You're kind of, to quote you, but Spanish Love Affair was so good winning last time. It was a controversial DQ. I didn't have a dog in the fight. I was like 60-40 no. I didn't think she should be disqualified. They ended up taking her down. It was a little bit of a coin flip. I'm not going to beat him up for that, but go back and watch the race regardless of the DQ. The move she put in was just absolutely breathtaking. And I'll tell you what, that was off the layoff. If she moves forward off that, and this is a really good field, Seth, the rest of these gals are in trouble because she looks like a real comer for Mark Casse. Chris Landeros takes over because Tyler Gaffalione is in New York riding, as we talked about earlier, prevalence for Brendan Walsh. But I'll tell you, Spanish Love Affair looks exciting to me. I'll come back to her, put her on top. Jouster for Todd looks loose, but I don't think Spanish Love Affair will let her get too far away. And I will say this, I know she got run down by what could be a pretty nice horse at Tampa. That Tampa Bay turf course has been so speedy, Seth. To see her lose a 3-length late lead at 7-10 puts a little bad taste in the mouth. So I'll put her underneath. And then Plum Ali, she's obviously really nice for Christoph, but she hasn't been out since the Breeders' Cup. And she doesn't have as much early speed as Jouster or Spanish Love Affair. And I would think she's just kind of prepping for bigger and better. So I think she's a little up against it today, and she'd be like tab for the next time kind of thing. 2 over the 1-4, and it's just a darn good Appalachian.
Yeah, Brendan Walsh has flown in here, and he'll talk about that one a little bit later on Racing Across America. The Commonwealth, race number 7, grade 3 event, $200,000 up for grabs. 7 furlongs is the trip.
This kicks off the all stakes late pick 5, and it's 500 guaranteed in that pool. And I would think $1 million will be in place. So it's an awesome sequence. 7-2 over the 1-5. You look at the race, and it's like, I don't know. It's a nice field, but who the heck are you scared of? I think there seems to be some speed in here with Flagstaff, Bango, and Special Reserve, right? And so Hog Creek Hustle, I mean, he's kind of like the bridesmaid, and he doesn't always win, and he usually comes up short. But you look at his numbers, he's been running 2s and a 0, and he fits in here. I think he'll like the pace. I think he'll like the 7 furlongs, and he should be a square price too. So I'm going to put him on top for Vicky Foley, the wife of Greg Foley, who they have Bango, who I would think is the speed in here. But again, I see a lot of others. Here's that guy Hidden Scroll, Seth, and the most enigmatic horse in training, right? My goodness. So Brad and Mark Dempentel, I believe they paid $500,000 for and privately purchased them. He looked really good winning at Oaklawn, but it was in slow time. He hasn't been seen since. My thoughts on Hidden Scroll. Maybe Brad's got him better than ever, but he's no better than any horse in this race. He'll be an underlaid price. Flagstaff is probably the horse to catch, but from down inside, it's a little tricky. And if he doesn't go, he could run the risk of being compromised. Attachment rate I actually had on the one sheet last time at 6-1. He ran really well. He ran really fast. He needs a seismic meltdown, Seth, and I think 7 is going to be a little too sharp for him. So I've got him underneath. I don't think it's a great renewal of the Commonwealth, Seth, but it's a fascinating betting race, that's for sure.
Just fascinating because of Hidden Scroll. You're right. They sold him at auction for $500,000, and he gets into the Brad Cox barn at Oaklawn and looks good on the comeback. But can he win a stakes race? I mean, it's just he has at points in his career showed so much promise and just never lived up to it. Now can he do it for new owners and Brad Cox?
And Seth, the thing that you did mention, I know you know this, and I know this. The they that you're talking about is Juddmonte Farm. I mean, Seth, when's the last time Juddmonte Farm sold a horse that was, tearing the barn down and going to go on to do great things, right? So I don't know. I mean, it seems like just a lot to ask on a horse that I don't really think is very good anyway. So he's a big play against for me. Who's better than Brad? No one, but I think that this is the type of horse set you just have to play against.
Yeah, he is going to be very interesting today, though. In the Shakertown grade 2 event, $200,000 up for grabs. It is a turf sprint at 5.5 furlongs.
Yeah, this is late pick 4, all stakes, 500K guaranteed in this one too. And this is the one sheet play of the day. And it's kind of an exacta play. I don't usually, I might make 5 exactas a year, but it's just straight 2-7. You look at this race, Seth, and I know they're only going 5.5. And sometimes these turf sprints can be funky and one horse breaks and the other don't. And then all of a sudden the dynamic changes. You look at this race, Seth, and my goodness, there is so much speed in it, and they all want to go. And then here's Imprimis, who's probably the best horse anyway, just laying back, licking his chops. He's a horse that finds trouble a lot. I will say that, admittedly, but boy, he looks in the right spot here. He's also run well without lay 6, 2 back. I think that's very, very important. And I think at the end of the day, his best race wins this. So that's the 2. And then conversely, here's the 7, Kantaka, for Graham, for West Point. We saw him come back in the Jaipur, run absolutely huge. Those guys have said timing and spacing is perfect for this horse. That's him. He hasn't been out since October. Now, he's got a little less speed than Imprima, so I think he's going to be along for the underneath portion. It's just straight 2-7 with a little backup 7-2. But I think this falls apart, Seth, and those are the 2 to me that pick up the pieces. And they probably are the 2 best horses anyway. And that's exactly how I'm playing it. I respect Bound for Nowhere, who loves Keeneland, but he's marooned out wide. He hasn't been out since July. The Critical Way has got to prove that he can run huge, not on the lead. I don't think he'll get it here. So there's a lot of question marks. You have no questions with Imprima, that's for sure.
Moving on, race number 9 on the card on Saturday. Of course, the Bluegrass plays into the Derby. The Ashland plays into the Oaks. 3-year-old fillies, grade 1 event, $400,000 up for grabs in the Ashland. 8.5 furlongs is the distance.
Did you ask Brendan about Little Moon Swag? That's what Joe K and I. She is a don't get too close to Little Moon Swag. She's not a fan of too many people. She's got a little feistiness to her. So she scratched her out of the Fairgrounds Oaks to run in here, which is probably a good idea because this is not. It's a solid race, but man, it's not the Fairgrounds Oaks. 2-3 over the 5. I don't know, Seth. There's some okay horses in here. Malathat, obviously, at the top of the list, but I don't think it's a bad idea to maybe take the up-and-comer, and that's Past the Champagne. Got the George Weaver last time and really, really put it all together, and she was awesome, breaking her maiden from a bad post, stretches out, faces winners, runs in a grade 1. It's a big ask, but the price will be right. She could be the controlling speed, too, and this is a pretty modest group. There's no world beaters in here. And I think Past the Champagne is going to be very dangerous on the class rise. Simply Ravishing, obviously the horse to beat for Kenny McPeak. She had a bum trip in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She was an okay 4th. Well, at the time it was a bad 4th in the Goldenrod at 7-10. But then you look back and who beat her that day? Travel Column and Clairiere, the best 2 3-year-old fillies in the country. She's been training well. She's run off works before at Saratoga, a New York bred, which is pretty cool to see. We know how good she is, so she's a big player. And then Mallet, that's fine. She's undefeated for Todd. Yeah, that Demoiselle was kind of fluky, wasn't it? When Milfoil blew that big open length lead late. She hasn't run since. She's now going farther. She's prepping for the Kentucky Oaks, as is Simply Ravishing, which is another reason why I think Past the Champagne is very live, because this, not that this isn't a big deal for Simply Ravishing and Malathat, because it is a grade 1, it's a prestigious race, but they've got the Kentucky Oaks in mind, whereas a horse like Past the Champagne would be, is cranked for this one because she needs points and it's a huge spot for her. 2-3 over the 5, Seth.
Simply Ravishing, owned by Harold Lerner, trained by Ken McPeak, and easy to root for as a New York bred, but also easy to root for. I love the Lerner horses, and if folks aren't familiar, we had Harold Lerner on a few years ago on one of the morning shows at Saratoga. He won the Alabama that year. Eskimo Kisses, maybe? I'd have to go look.
Yes, sir.
But he gives hope to all of us who are in the trenches, because he now owns nice horses like this, because he won, which was at the time the largest pot in the New Jersey lottery. So he played some lottery tickets, hits the lottery. Now he's a nice racehorse owner out there. So again, he's got a lot of fun to root for there on the owner's side of things, Harold Lerner. All right, let's go to race number 10 at Keeneland on Saturday afternoon. The Madison Grade 1 event, $300,000 for the fillies and mares, going 7.
How good is this race, right? I mean, you can go any different way here. The only horse that can't win is the 2. 3-5 over the 6-4. I'm probably getting too clever here, but the one thing the Madison doesn't have, Seth, is speed. And that's what Monday Call does have. So she'll be on the lead. She hasn't been out since October. She was a 3-year-old filly running against only 3-year-old fillies. The fact, and she was terrible at 1-2 in the Miss Preakness. And the fact that Brad brings her back in here, I think it's significant. I think it's interesting. I think it's kind of like scratch your head, but it's noteworthy to me. And she's been training very well. Florent Giroux is here, his main man, and she's the controlling speed, Seth. And the last time she went 7 was at Ellis, or 1 going 7 was at Ellis, and it was an awesome effort. She's going to be on the lead in here. It's a very, very good group, but they're not like crazy fast on figures or on paper. Maybe she gets brave over a speedy track and forgets to stop at what should be a very nice price. She's 1-for-1 at Keeneland. I'm going to try it with her and put her on top. Kamari is the horse to beat off her return, but it was in the slop at Oaklawn. So she's got to answer the bell on a fast main track. She'll probably be closest to Monday Call, I would think. And it'll put her in the right spot. She'll just be a little bit of an underlay. Wisconsin's been training awesome at Fairgrounds for the Foleys. Greg and Travis and the team had an awesome meet. I like her a lot. She's just pace compromised today. And maybe, to me, let's get Wisconsin on Derby Day in the Humana Distaff. Second off the layoff. I'm against her today. Same with Bell's the One for Neil Pessin. They're kind of like the same horse. No speed, run on late, off the layoff, off the Breeders' Cup, both of them. Let's get her on Derby Day in the Humana Distaff as well. 3-5 over the 6-4 and a pretty cool renewal of the Madison.
You mentioned Kamari, and that when you look down the PPs, it's fun to see these Wesley Ward horses. Turf, dirt. This one has been mainly turf. Started the career on the dirt at Keeneland a couple of seasons ago in one of the 2-year-old 4.5 furlong races facing the boys, but has been over at Ascot a couple of times, and that's why I bring it up. Chasing Artie, who we talked about a little bit earlier. I saw the Winner's Circle interview with Wesley Ward, and it looks like Chasing Artie may be headed to Royal Ascot.
Seth, I'm glad you brought it up. Is this a resume or what? 4.5 at Keeneland on debut, straight to Royal Ascot, turf at Saratoga. She runs in the Breeders' Cup, comes back in the slop at Oaklawn, back to Ascot, back to the turf at Kentucky Downs, and back at Oaklawn. I mean, why isn't he running on the poly track? That's the only thing that's missing, right? I mean, that's so cool that what he does with these horses. And by the way, she's banked $578. So, yeah, not too bad, right?
Absolutely. All right.
They paid what'd they pay for? $152. So, yeah, it's working out pretty good.
Yeah, nice horse, certainly. All right, let's move on to the exclamation point on the day at Keeneland. The 11th race is the Bluegrass Grade 2 event, $800,000 up for grabs for the 3-year-olds, 100 Derby points to the winner. 1 1/8 miles is the trip.
I don't want to, skip over the best, most important race of the day, but it's Essential Quality just has to win, doesn't he? I mean, he's undefeated. He's a 2-year-old champion. There's not a lot in here, Seth, and he just looks better. Ron Bauer's coming out, by the way. Okay, so take note of that, folks. It's just 4 over the 2-3. Essential Quality is just a better horse, and he'll go to the Kentucky Derby undefeated. He'll probably be the favorite unless Concert Tour does something crazy next week in the Arkansas Derby. We'll have plenty of time to talk about Essential Quality going forward. He looks in a great spot today. He's 2 for 2 in 2 Grade 1 races at Keeneland. He won his championship here in the Breeders' Cup. He was fine. He was really good in the Southwest, beating a bunch of nothing. Spielberg came back and was dreadful in the Florida Derby. We know how Jackie's Warrior is a one-turn horse. It was in the slop that day, so I don't think it's tough to gauge what essential quality is at 3. But I don't really think he'll have to work too hard today, Seth, and to beat this group. And so he's going to go to the Kentucky Derby, very likely 5 for 5, but very likely off 2 races where you might not get a great gauge on him. So it's kind of cool that, I think he'll win today, and he'll probably do it pretty easily. But he could still be, the favorite in the Kentucky Derby as slightly of an unknown commodity. I took a price underneath, untreated. Got the class drop, went to Todd Pletcher from Chad Brown. He blew up at Tampa over, way lesser. But he'll be a price. I like to do that heavy favorite on top, price underneath. The fact Todd runs him in here, is noteworthy. I don't know about you, Seth, and I'll throw it to you just to hear your thoughts because you're familiar with Highly Motivated, being in New York. He does not strike me as a 2-turn horse. I was very, very blah about his Gotham. I know he got involved in Deep Stretch and the light bulb kind of went on. It was his first start of the year. It was his first start past 6.5 furlongs. I'm very against him going this far.
I have him underneath, and I think he's interesting. And the Gotham to me was a good starting point. A little trouble there early, and so he wasn't in it, but he did get going late. So I had him right underneath. I have Untreated down in the 4th spot. The horse I think is interesting at a price might be Hidden Stash, coming off the nice closing effort in the Tampa Bay Derby.
I don't have a problem with that at all. The thing about Tampa, it's tricky because, Candyman Rocket was so good winning the Sam Davis, and then he was 10th in the Derby, and then Helium, who won the Derby, hadn't been out, I think, since October or something like that. So it's a tough series down there at Tampa to get a gauge with. But I agree with everything you said in that, okay, let's give the race to Essential Quality. I don't have any problem with that. But, I don't have a problem looking for some kind of price, something a little funky underneath, too. Yeah,
like I say, Hidden Stash. Just going to be interested to see what that one does do off the 2 decent-looking tries down at Tampa. All right, let's take another break. When we come back, we will shift our attention to Aqueduct and the card featuring the Wood Memorial and a nice undercard of stakes races as well. All of that right after this.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku, try it now.
The Clubhouse Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the Clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at capitalotb.com.
Where's the best place to find your favorite teams, your favorite food, daily drink specials, and wagering on live horse racing? Legends Field Sports Bar, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. Get your game on day or night with 75 flat-screen TVs, tournament-style pool tables, a private banquet room, and live horse racing. So if someone asks you, where's the best sports bar in the Capital Region? Tell them Legends Field Sports Bar, inside the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Brian and Seth with you. We just got through an awesome 11-race card at Keeneland on their signature day. And Seth and I talked at the start, the sign of spring, signature day at Aqueduct. It's Wood Memorial Day. They have a phenomenal card as well. It will kick off at 12:50 in the p.m. The first one is a $40,000 maiden claimer. We go 6, and I've got to preface it with the main track because we are back on the turf. Fillies and Mares 3-0.
6, 4, 5, and 3 for me. I'll put Artie as the party on top. It looks like a race where you can, take a shot with the fresh face. Cairo Prince, I like that sire as a a win early type sire. I believe this is the dam's first filly. They paid 95. They're debuting for 40. That's maybe a little bit of a concern, but it's Robitrass, Michael Dubb and company, so you have potent connections. Robitrass had a good winter meet, particularly the end of that winter meet at Aqueduct. Steady string of workouts, so I'll tilt in that direction. Best het for Jeffrey Engelhardt comes off a couple of good second place finishes in similar company in the last two starts that I think, say this horse is a player. Jose Ortiz on board, and the Ortiz brothers got right back into it when they got back into New York this week. So have to pay attention to them, obviously. And then despite all odds in the third spot, dropped down to this level last time and ran third. But there are a couple of races, just a few races back, that are good enough to be right in the thick of things here. I'm hoping for maybe a little bit of a rebound to those types of performances. In the opener, 6, 4, 5, and 3.
All right, race 2, Seth. I got to give a shout out to my Aunt Josie, who's watching today too. We're clogging up the airwaves in the Capital District. So hello,
the more the merrier.
Early pick 4 time here in the second. It's fillies and mares, 3 and up. It's 16K, 2L, back 6 on the main track.
2, 5, 6, and 4. I have Empress Luciana on top. 20 starts, 1 win. That certainly isn't a reason for confidence, but the third place finish last time showed a little oomph. The horse has been racing in similar company for the past few starts since breaking the maiden. Sometimes they'll take a start or two to kind of figure out the next condition. Maybe this horse, the third place finish last time, the second place finish 2 back, kind of says, maybe this horse is primed and ready to kind of break through the N2L level. I'll go there, but as you can guess, as it sounds, not with a lot of confidence. Second slot, I'll use Mamakin. Trouble 2 starts back, but the comeback after that was an okay fourth. It's Carlos Martin, another guy who had a really nice winter meet. Horses were racing well in New York, and he had some down in Florida also. So he's going well. Blinkers go on today. I'll put that one in the mix. And then Impress the Professor in the third spot. Boy, the last couple of starts weren't much, but I think the cutback today maybe gets this one into a spot. I'm just looking at the numbers. It's not a strong field. This one at least has some numbers that are okay. And again, I'm hoping the cutback can get us back to some of the better numbers as well. I jump into this race without much confidence at all, but in the second, I have a 2, 5, 6, and 4.
All right, one more on the main track going 6 here. It's a state bred special weight, 3 and up, New York breds, 6, as I said, on the main track.
5, 1, 2, and 6. I'll put Great Workout on top. It's Todd Pletcher. It's Mike Rapoli. This is a sibling to Sudden Surprise. You may remember that one. Sudden Surprise won the first 3 races of his career, including a couple of stakes races. So I think there's some win early breeding here. This one comes up after a nice string of workouts at Pletcher's Palm Beach Downs outfit down in Florida. I think Great Workout looks good in the debut. Jeremiah Engelhardt has Viking Zim for Bill Parcells' August Dawn farm. The career debut showed a little oomph, showed some punch early before fading late. There is a sibling called Sammy Mandeville that was 4th in debut and then won the second career start. Let's see if this one can live up to the older sibling. And then 1 Whirlwind Ride in the third spot. Nice second place finish last time. The start 3 back was a pretty good second as well. They bookend a little bit of a disappointing 4th place, but that was on a sloppy track. I think off the 2 second place finishes on fast tracks in the last 3 starts, this one deserves to be in the conversation. Third race, 5, 1, 2, and 6.
Right, stakes action here in the Bay Shore. Grade 3 for 3-year-olds, going 7 on the main track. And the fact that they ran Drain the Clock here, Seth, as opposed to the Florida Derby, because he was a good second in the Fountain of Youth. And if Safi and the crew is going to concentrate on one-turn racing, he is going to be a really fun horse to watch over the summer. I would think, Seth, in our neck of the woods, the Woody Stevens, and then certainly the Alan Jerkins up at Saratoga. He's an exciting horse.
And I'll go back to what you said last week. As we talked about the Florida Derby, you had no confidence really in Greatest Honor, and you said it was maybe an optical illusion in that Drain the Clock was going beyond his distance and maybe was coming back a little bit. And I have to think Safi Joseph and crew maybe felt the same. And I agree with you. This is going to be a really nice 3-year-old sprinters, and there are plenty of spots on the calendar for that.
And you have to commend him too, Seth, because, how many people, how many trainers / owners would do that? They ran second in the Fountain of Youth. They got 20 points. They're on the precipice of running in the Kentucky Derby. And they say, you know what? It's probably not what our horse wants to do. I hope it works out for him, because it's something that never really happens. Let's do right for the horse at this time of the year. And I hope it works out, because they really should be commended, Seth.
Yeah, because occasionally you see him push this type and the horse is just never the same again.
100%. 100%.
And there are grade ones on the sprint side that they can aim for that'll put a nice resume together for this horse. I have Drain the Clock on top. I've liked him throughout the career, and really the only bad performance was the one where the rider didn't stay on the horse. And so you can draw a line through that. Obviously, they get back to the sprint distance, and I think otherwise this is not a strong field. So Drain the Clock on top. Whiskey Double for Asmussen, a little bit interesting, coming off the win at Oaklawn. May have a little bit of a future, still lightly raced, and that win at Oaklawn was the best of the career, so maybe moving in the right direction. And then 2 Boss in the 3rd spot. This horse is interesting. Okay, second in debut, a nice win in the Maiden Breaker back in January. But then I look at it and I think it's a Pletcher runner, and they elected in the 3rd career start off a nice win to go down to Parks and try Optional Claiming Company, and they wind up 4th at 4-5. Just the move to Parks didn't thrill me all that much in the last start, but I do think 2 Boss off the race 2 back in this particular short field has to be considered as well. In the Bayshore, 3-4, 1-5.
All right, race 5. It's kind of the middle tweener on this card here. It's a state bred 1X, fillies and mares, 3 and up, back to 6 furlongs on the main track.
3-7, 2 and 1. I'll put Mind of Gold on top. It's our friend Roddy Valente. Linda Rice trains. They claimed this horse 3 starts back. It looks like it's going to be kind of a crafty claim. They won first off the claim, and then they moved into a starter allowance last time and ran a good second. I think, this is not a superstar by any means, but as they say, a clever claim for 30,000, 3 back, and I think in this particular field probably has a little bit of an edge. So I'll put that one on top. Still fairly lightly raced. Maybe there's a little upside potential as well. She's a Super Freak as compared to Mind of Gold with 5 starts. She's a Super Freak has 21 starts and only 1 win, but some early speed. That may be the game plan. A little catch me if you can action in here for She's a Super Freak. And then OK Honey in the 3rd spot. Kind of stalked and pounced last time in a good effort, albeit against conditional claimers. Now moves into a state bred allowance. I like the move in the other direction a lot. State bred allowance into an open claimer, an open conditional claimer. If I like that move a lot, the reverse is a little more of a hill to climb, but seems to be in good form right now. So the 5th at Aqueduct, 3-7, 2 and 1.
Seth, talk to me about Eric Cancel on your top pick. He's turned into Angel Cordero up there. I go away for the winter, and he wins 6 a day now. What a transformation! Great job that he's doing.
The closing day, you just have to salute the guy. Closing day gets 6 to overtake Kendrick Carmouche and win the winter meet title by 2.
I mean, it's really impressive. I believe is PJ Campo his agent? Is that?
I think you're right. Now that you mention that,
so wow, he's just turned the corner. So good for those guys. Pretty cool to see. Now, Empire 6 kicks off here in the 6th. They got that mandatory payout, that daily thing going, I believe. So take note of that. It's the Carter. There's only 5 horses. It's a grade 1 going 7 for 4 and up here. And it's a solid group if there's only 5, but it's a solid group. There's no doubt about that.
I went 4, 5, 1, and 3. I really liked Mischievous Alex in the past couple down at Gulfstream for Safi, including the Gulfstream sprint last time. I think he comes in good form. I'll put him on top. But Chateau is also in very good form. And I went back and forth. Who do I put on top? And I eventually tilted. I just thought that Gulfstream Park sprint was legit. Irod Ortiz was on board down there. He'll be back on board again on Saturday afternoon. So I put that one over Chateau, but I think these two are pretty similar. Mind Control with the good Aqueduct record. I'm not sure what we've seen from the past number of starts from Mind Control is indicating he is the best of Mind Control, but again, maybe returning to the Aqueduct home cooking will rebound him a little bit. So for me, in the Carter, I have it 4, 5, 1, and 3.
Okay, back to the turf to start the late pick 5, and it's a 1X, fillies and mares, 3 and up. We go a mile and a 16th. That's the inner turf, too.
6 up, but they had, I was watching some video yesterday of them taking the tarp off the turf course on a windy day, and the tarp's going, and you don't think about it. In wintertime, you look and you see in the inner, the tarp put it, but that has got to be a huge job at the end of the season to cover the entire turf course, and then there's an afternoon where they go out and take the cover off, although it was well worth it because the turf course looks great down there at Aqueduct.
I mean, just to dumb it down, it's a mile of tarp, correct, Seth? I mean, it's like, how much tarp did you get at the store? I got a mile worth. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of tarp.
Yeah, and as I say, it worked out fine, though, because turf racing started yesterday. The course looks great. I have it 6, 7, 5, and 3. Windfall Profit on top. The Shug horse comes off of a layoff going back to November, but, relatively lightly raced 4-year-old that I think has shown some flashes of promise in the career at this level, and being fairly lightly raced, maybe comes back with a little added maturity and talent. We will see. Makes the 4-year-old debut here, and that comes up out of the Payson Park training facility for Shug for this start. Apurate, the number 7 horse in the mix as well. It's a Pletcher trainee. Plenty of nice early tactical speed. Will either be on the front or right with the front runner, whoever that may be. And I have a feeling this one will be in front. So with the Catch Me If You Can style, that may be dangerous in here this afternoon. And Flighty Lady, I just couldn't ignore. It's a Chad Brown, Peter Brandt runner that has been running over in Europe and doing so competitively. Now comes over here, tries Lasix for the first time, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what the tote board says on this one. Irod Ortiz on board, but again, off the European form, I couldn't, and the connections, I couldn't ignore Flighty Lady. In the 7th, 6, 7, 5, and 3.
Race 8 is the Grade 3 Excelsior, 4 and up. We go a mile and an 1/8 on the main track.
I went with Mr. Buff. He's a fun horse, a New York bred 7-year-old. Going a couple starts back, I was not convinced in the Jazzle. He had been 5th in the Cigar. Obviously a little overmatched there. But then in the State Bred, Alex Robb ran 2nd. So I was wondering, late in the 6-year-old season, had he just gone past his best point? But then the Jazzle at this mile and an 1/8 distance just was phenomenal. A triple-digit buyer. The follow-up in the Stymie was very good. I'm going to tilt towards Mr. Buff. Limonite in the 2nd spot off a close-up 2nd place finish to Mr. Buff in the Stymie last time, and a good win before that touts him as being in good form. And Backside of the Moon, maybe the Catch Me If You Can horse, although Mr. Buff showed some speed last time. Going to be interesting to see how it plays out going into the first turn and as they hit the backstretch, where these two are. Hopefully they're not knocking heads and knocking each other out. Modernist is interesting to me because I thought the Challenger down at Tampa, this is a horse that had shown some ability early in the career. He won the Risen Star down at the Fairgrounds last year. So he had some talent and then wound up the season. Poor performance in the Belmont, 5th in the Peter Pan. So how is Modernist going to come back? It was a 2nd in the Challenger, but I thought in a fashion that said, maybe this horse comes back with a little bit of talent this year and could benefit from that. I wasn't sure what to do with him here. I'm at the bottom of my mix, but in the Excelsior, I went 7, 4, 3, and 5.
So I love what they're doing here. That was the first of 3 straight 9-furlong dirt races on the card. And Seth talked about Mr. Buff from that outside post. I don't think it'll hurt him because he has so much early speed, but take your racing form or whatever you're looking at and check out the layout of the circumference of the track. It is a crazy quick run to the first turn. Outside posts are at an extreme disadvantage. Going 9 furlongs, how quick that run to the first turn is. So make sure you note that because it's a factor in the Excelsior, It's a factor in the Gazelle. It's a factor in the Wood Memorial. The 9th is the sister race to the Wood Memorial. 3-year-old fillies in the Grade 3 Gazelle, a key Kentucky Oaks prep. They go 9 furlongs on the main track.
And I did go to the outside post here, but I think this horse may be nice. 8, 3, 6, and 5. It's search results for Chad and Klarovich. Won the career debut early in January down at Gulfstream in fine fashion. Then improved with a buyer that jumped up over 10 points in the Busher. Nice ding-dong battle coming down the stretch there. And so 2 for 2 so far for a horse they paid over $300,000 for as a Keeneland yearling a couple seasons back for Potent Connections. Irod Ortiz on board. I'll put search results on top to kind of really establish herself in this 3-year-old filly division. Mia Martina, the horses I have in second and third, both. Mia Martina and Always Late. Go turf to dirt. That's going to be the big question mark. I thought both of them had some talent, though, and I'm kind of trusting the connections. Mia Martina, it's Graham Motion. Always Late, it's Bill Mott. So, again, it's a huge question making the surface switch, but I think they have some talent, and I'll, as I say, put my trust in the connections to be making the right move. In the Gazelle, 8, 3, 6, and 5.
And, you know, it does kind of look like a race that could be there for an upsetter, and Mia Martina certainly is interesting, as you mentioned, and Always Late. These connections, you know, they don't run horses where they don't belong, so I think it's worth taking note of. The 10th, it's the feature. It's the big Kentucky Derby prep at Aqueduct, 100 points on the line. The top 2 finishers will essentially be in the Kentucky Derby. The Grade 2 Wood Memorial, 1 mile and 1/8, 9 furlongs on the main track.
I think it's a really fun, really intriguing field. And I mentioned it earlier. One of the interesting horses running today is Prevalence. We'll talk to Brendan Walsh a little bit later on Racing Across America. I didn't use Prevalence, but I wasn't sure what to do with Collaborate last week. I'm not sure what to do with Prevalence here. Prevalence could easily win. This is a horse with all kinds of talent. That I didn't use him isn't so much a knock on him as I think this field is very interesting. I have it 4, 8, 2, and 7. I put Risk Taking on top. Looked good winning the Withers. Had won the Maiden Breaker just before that. Both of those were when stretched out to this 1 mile and 1/8 trip. It's Chad Brown, it's Klarovich. I'll go in that direction. Wayburn, boy, that was a nice performance in the Gotham. I mean, the horse was passed in a fashion where you thought, Wayburn's not going to win that. You know, he may fade back even further, but he just would not quit and came, won by a nose at 46-1. For Jimmy Jerkins, love rooting for Jimmy Jerkins, nice guy. And, you know, the other story on the Gotham was he wasn't even supposed to go in the Gotham. There was an allowance race earlier that day that they were pointing for that didn't fill. So he winds up putting the horse in the Gotham and wins the race. Now they come back here. I'm going to be very interested to see how he comes back out of that win in the Gotham and runs this afternoon. Crowded Trade was right behind Wyburn last time in the Gotham. It's Klarovich, it's Chad Brown. That was only the second career start. That one's interesting. I have Candyman Rocket down in the 4th spot. I liked him in the Tampa Bay Derby. I can't believe that. Given what we saw in the Sam Davis at the same 1 mile and 1/16 trip, that Tampa Bay Derby looks maybe a little bit like an aberration. I'll look for him to bounce back this afternoon and at least be competitive. But boy, this is fun. You know, Brooklyn Strong in the Remsen looked really good, and I was looking forward to seeing him as a 3-year-old. He's a New York bred. That makes him easy to root for us as well. But I just, you know, he had some stops and starts so far this season. That he comes back and makes the seasonal debut in the Wood, that seems like a really tough ask for me. I think this is a fun race this afternoon. I have it 4, 8, 2, and 7.
Just quickly, I don't like Candyman Rocket, but for all the reasons you said, the fact that he's here in running, Seth, it's Bill Mott. Again, he does not run them if they're not tearing the barn down. I think that's noteworthy if you're looking for a crazy price, because he did run so good in the Davis, and then for whatever reason, he didn't show in the Tampa Bay Derby. The fact they forge on, the fact they run in such a race like the Wood Memorial, I think it's kind of interesting. So, yeah, you're right. It's a really good race, isn't it? So can't wait to see that little later on today. Close it down, 11 of them at Aqueduct today. Back on the outer turf, state-bred maiden claimer 3 and up. We'll go a mile in a 16th at 6:28 in the PM to round it up.
I have an 8-7, 11 and 2. Michael's Bad Boy on top. 7 starts, hasn't gotten it done, so he's got not the most experience in the field, but second most, I think. But last couple of starts to end the season last year were pretty good. They were at this 40 level. They were with Irad Ortiz on board. He elects to jump on board again on Saturday afternoon. It's Safi Joseph. I'll put that one on top. Valiero in the second spot. Maiden special weight to maiden claimer in here on the state bred side of things. But with that class move, the Jim Bond runner could be a player in here. And then I'm going to go to Moon's Edge. I said it earlier in one of the races, a fresh face, quote unquote, maybe the direction to go in a race like this. And the Tom Morley runner has a nice steady string of workouts, maybe a little bit of interesting breeding as well. In the 11th and final, I have an 8-7, 11 and 2. Wrapping up the Aqueduct card with a great stakes action highlighted by the Wood Memorial. Brian looked at the Keeneland card earlier, highlighted by the Bluegrass with great stakes action as well. This is what we're looking for. Spring has sprung and the big races are running. This is a great day of racing. We didn't even mention out at Santa Anita Derby this afternoon as well.
And mandatory payout out there, and that Rainbow Six or whatever pick six they do, and they're saying 5-7 million in that pool. And for once, the Derby seems wide open with a deep field as opposed to a 5 or 6 horse field. So it's a lot of excitement out there. So amp up those Capital OTB accounts from noon to probably about 7-8 o'clock tonight. So can't wait.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And we have nighttime thoroughbred racing available tonight as well. So plenty of action to take advantage of. Brian, appreciate it as always. Thanks for the visit. Folks can check out Brian's selections every Keeneland racing day during their meet on the website, capitalotb.com. Click on the handicapper support link. All right, we've gone a little long, but that's okay. Racing Across America, top of the hour. Stay tuned for that. Stabile and Brendan Waltz, but both of those were taped yesterday, so we're going to work out fine. We'll wrap it up for the handicapper support. I will be back in a couple with Racing Across America. Stay tuned.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.